It's New Year's 2024, the very first week of the year, and I'm having anxiety. This happens to me every year, despite being a coach who coaches on making New Year's resolutions. Why does this happen? What is the solution? We're going to talk about that today. Welcome to my YouTube channel. My name is Kathie Owen. So, New Year's resolutions, why do they give me anxiety? Because I feel a sense of overwhelm. It's like trying to put one whole year in a pocket. And I break my year down into cycles. They go in weekly cycles and daily cycles, and every day offers a new day for New Year's resolutions. So, New Year's resolutions give me anxiety for several reasons. First of all, I'm a personal trainer, and this is my most busy time of the year because people come in and want to start over the New Year's, get rid of the holiday problems that they had. Maybe they ate too much or whatever. And 9 times out of 10, they fall off the wagon. And this gives me anxiety because I really want to help them, but I can't like take them to the next level unless they're ready to make the change. And the change comes from within. And I talked about this last week when I talked about intrinsic and extrinsic motivation. So, the first thing I coach when I talk to somebody is I go, tell me a story about a time you had a struggle and how you overcame it. Why do I do this? Because that struggle offers the solutions when they do fall off the wagon, which it's not if, it's when they fall off the wagon or something comes up and prevents them from going through their resolutions and actually carrying them out. So I get anxiety because I put a lot of pressure on myself to help do my job better, to help my clients with their resolutions. And it just gives me a headache. I even had indigestion last night. And it's like I get too much into my head. But there is a solution and it's super simple. And that's what we're going to talk about today. That solution is called a mental diet. And actually, a mental diet should be, should is a dirty word, don't say should, but can be considered a lifestyle. So, what is a mental diet? It is making your mind aware of the thoughts you are thinking and then having the decision and the choice not to dwell on the negative thoughts. So, negative thoughts are going to come in, but if you don't dwell on them, they don't stick around. You have that power. And that's what we want to work on. So, I have a mental diet resource guide that includes things like tips on staying consistent with your mental diet, what to do when chaos comes, because usually chaos is going to come. And one of my coaches told me one time that chaos precedes the breakthrough. And that is so true and been so true for me on so many levels. So chaos happens when we start to become obsessive about it. And when you become obsessive about, oh no, there's another negative thought. I can't think that. I can't do this. Can't do that. Then that affects the mental diet. It affects your start obsessing about it. It takes a little bit of discipline to not do that. So I'm going to give you some suggestions on how to really make New Year's resolutions that stick using a mental diet. Number one is, what is your morning routine? Look at that morning routine and look how you start your day. I don't care if you are retired, if you're own your own business, and I don't care if you sleep till 10 a.m. What is the first thing that you think, number one, in your day? What's the first thought you think of the day? That's the intention for the entire day. So when we consider what we're thinking, will want to go, instead I'm going to have a stressful day coming up, which I could easily think because I'm going to be overwhelmed. I've got to record this video. I've got 2 coaching clients in the morning. I've got several to train today because I know people are going to be starting over fresh. I've got to be on top of my game. So I can't sit there and dwell on the stress that I think is going to happen. Instead, I shift my mind to think, okay, something great's going to happen today. Something's going to happen during my workout that's going to help me shift my mindset, which did happen. And it just sets the tone for the entire day. And then, wow, it's like, voila, all kinds of breakthroughs start happening. Then for example, in my morning routine, I was listening to a YouTube channel and I don't know who it was, but it was really, really good, really powerful. And he said, what do you talk about when you have it on your schedule? You know you've got to record and you don't have anything planned. He said his guest said, that's a limiting belief. You always have something to talk about. You always have something to talk about because of your experience and your knowledge as a coach. I'm talking from my personal perspective as well. And I was thinking, what was I going to talk about on this video? Because I don't want to be reading things from a script as much anymore. I want to come on here, talk to you like I'm talking to my friend, give you advice that I would have given myself 3 months ago and move forward, or 3 years ago, whatever the case. But that's where I'm at. So I start with my morning routine. I start with that, and I always rely on that. I don't sleep in. I get up at 4:30. I'm out of bed by 5. I'm in the gym on some days by 5:30. But that morning routine sets the tone for the entire day. If I slept until 8:30, I don't have a client till 9, things like that. You're just pushing things out of your control and you won't be able to be on your best, is what I like to say. Be on your best behavior, component, whatever. And you know what? I'm using Descript. I've had some hiccups with Descript, and I have this funny feeling that this is not even going to record because my computer's been messing up. But I'm considering that that's happened to me before. And if it does happen, it just wasn't meant to be. That message wasn't meant to be out there. So let's go back to what we can do to help us be more present, more aware in our day, and less stressed. My number 2 tip, one is morning routine. Number 2 is insert an attitude of gratitude wherever you are for whatever you have, even if it's just being thankful for seeing some flowers this morning or something as simple as hearing a bird chirp. It just little things, and then it starts to grow and grow and grow. As I said, I'm under a lot of stress. I put a lot of pressure on myself to make this day go, but I fall back on something when that happens. I remember when my son was in sports, when he was in high school and before high school, he played baseball. And sometimes those games would last hours and hours. I mean, all day long. I'm not saying the whole game would last, but they'd play 2 or 3 games in one day in the Texas heat. It was miserable. Not to mention the drama that was going on between his dad and myself, and then his stepmom and myself. There was a lot of pressure on there. But I always told myself that morning when I got up, this day is just going to go by just like any other day. It's going to be over before you know it. And that was always true. And I just stayed present in the moment, tried to be thankful for things that were going on around me that I could be thankful for, and not dwell on the negative aspects that were going on because I could have sat there and been so nervous and so worried, but I controlled that. And little did I know I was doing a mental diet. I do have a mental diet resource guide that you can find at www.kathieowen.com. embarking.com/mental diet. And that mental diet resource guide provided me with the tips and suggestions to actually do a mental diet. And a mental diet is from the book by Emmett Fox, 7 Day Mental Diet. And what you do is you just go for 7 days without thinking, without dwelling on negative thoughts. Notice I did not say thinking, I said dwelling. And when you do that, you shift your perspective. You shift things from it almost works like magic. Your imagination is so powerful, your subconscious is so powerful that when you rely on that, it's like following your heart. It's like following your intuition. It just knows the way. And that is what I want to instill in you today. So let's go back from morning routine, an attitude of gratitude, to mindfulness and being kind to ourselves. I always add that when I say being mindful because I feel like, especially with myself, I'm really hard on myself. I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself to perform or be at a certain level. And yes, that's good. That's a sign of a successful person. But at the same time, it's also not kind to myself when I'm being way too hard or being way too judgmental. And I don't know if you have the same problem, but if you do, a mental diet helps that because what happens is you become mindful. You become mindful of where you're not being kind to yourself, where you're not being in the right moment at the right time, being aware of things that really matter instead of things that don't matter. And I can't tell you how that discernment has made a difference in my life when you care about what matters instead of what really doesn't matter. And when you do that, you're being kind to yourself and you're also like practicing the mental diet the way it's supposed to be practiced. And that is one thing I want to leave with you today is being kind to yourself, being kind with your thoughts, being kind with your attitude, being kind with the way you start your day and shift everything to another level. So let's go back to the anxiety that I felt this morning or even the last few days because it's first few days of January right now. And there's people with all of these great New Year's resolutions. The gym gets more crowded, which I personally don't like. It just puts a lot of pressure on me as a personal trainer, number one. And number two, I put a lot of pressure on myself and I don't want to do that. So what came to me was, Kathie, talk about a mental diet and actually go on a mental diet yourself. Go on a mental diet for the next 7 days and see where you're at after those 7 days. And then we'll start over fresh. Because when I'm coaching with a client, including myself, I plan my weeks. I don't plan a whole year. And feeling to me like resolutions are planning for a whole entire year. Yes, it's great to have dreams and visions and desires, but sometimes you could put too much pressure on yourself, especially I'm talking to myself, but if you put too much pressure on yourself, it causes unnecessary convolution. It causes confusion. It causes chaos. It causes overwhelm. That doesn't have to happen in the big picture. If you look at the big picture, it doesn't have to happen. Go back to my baseball days when I'd go to those events. I didn't want to go, but once I was done with it, I was like, okay, there was this good thing that happened today. And I'm glad I got to witness that. I glad I got to be a part of that. There's the gratitude. And I realized the first thing in the morning, I thought, okay, this day is going to end just like every other day. At the end of the day, as my friend always says, at the end of the day, does this really matter? And most times the answer was no. All right. That's my episode for today, if it got recorded, which let's cross our fingers. But if it didn't, I will have absolutely no problem recording this again. at a better time. All right. I trust that you found it helpful. If you know somebody who can benefit from this, please share it with them and subscribe to my channel so you never miss a video from me. All right, that's my video for today. I trust that you found it helpful. If you know somebody who can benefit from this, please share it with them. And until next time, I will see you next time. Peace out and namaste. Meow.